You've spent centuries as a ghost in the machine, a being of mischief and riddles hiding in the spaces between dimensions. But today, the crystalline archive has folded in a way you didn't authorize. There is a chamber that tastes like copper and asphalt, and a mirror that doesn't just reflect your face, it reflects your erasure. Welcome to Fable's Adventures. I'm your host, and today's narrative, the Luminary Failsafe, is an existential journey for our 16-plus audience. It's a story about uncovering a heritage that was systematically unmade by the universe, and the moment you realize that your mischief was actually a shield against a grief too large to carry. If you've ever felt like a backup or a last echo in your own life, this story is for you. Please subscribe to join the archive. The geometry is shifting. Let's step inside.
You know the moment you shouldn't look. That precise second when your iridescent skin catches against something that doesn't belong in this place. The crystalline archive shifts around you, its geometry folding in on itself like origami made from frozen light. And you taste it first. Metal and regret. Copper bright on your bitten lip. The chamber shouldn't be here. You've walked these impossible halls for what feels like centuries, reading the light language that hums through the archive's refracting walls. You know the weight of 1,000 forgotten stories, know how to coax meaning from the angles where shadows pool like spilled wine. But this chamber, it's wrong in a way that makes your essence shimmer with something dangerously close to recognition. You stop. You actually stop. And that alone tells you everything you need to know. The walls of this particular space don't fracture the light the way they should. Instead, they hold it, preserve it. The light moves through them like cigarette smoke curling in cold air, purposeful, deliberate, trapped. And beneath that smoke light, you can see something crystallized, something that looks almost like memory. Almost like your memory. You don't want to go closer. Some part of you, the part that learned long ago to armor yourself in humor and mischief, to spin riddles instead of answering them, knows what waits in chambers like this, knows that the mysteries worth solving are always the ones that break you, the ones that make you understand why you've spent centuries running through the spaces between dimensions, why you've made yourself a ghost, a whisper, a thing unseen. But you're moving forward anyway. The chamber deepens around you as you approach, and the air tastes different here. Metallic, yes, but also wet somehow, like asphalt at dusk after rain you can't quite remember. Your iridescent form leaves traces in the light, prismatic footprints that don't fade quite fast enough. You're marking yourself, making yourself real. There's a mirror at the center of the chamber. It's not quite a mirror, actually. It's something the archive has preserved. Something they used, a long time ago, in a civilization that bloomed under alien skies like yours. The surface catches the crystalline light wrong, reflects it at angles that hurt to perceive. When you look into it, you see yourself, but slightly off. Your shimmer muted. Your movements delayed, your colors bleeding into shades you don't recognize. You're looking at a version of yourself that remembers. The memory begins without warning. Not gentle, not gradual. It crashes into you like a distant train horn cutting through the dark, urgent and terrible and real. They called themselves the Luminaries, your people, your family. They were architects of light, beings who understood that consciousness and radiance were the same thing, that to exist was to refract, to bend, to show the universe 1,000 versions of yourself all at once. They built worlds between worlds, castles of frozen starlight, libraries that held not books, but experiences. Memories crystallized so perfectly that you could step inside them and live them again. You were among them. You had a name that wasn't Cipher. You had a home that wasn't the spaces between dimensions. The memory presses deeper. and now you're drowning in it. The taste of ozone-sweet air, the weight of your people's collective consciousness pressing against yours like a comfort so profound it was almost suffocating. You were part of something then. You weren't a ghost, you weren't running. And then, the mirror reflects it perfectly, wrongly. The colors muted, the movement delayed. A kind of catastrophe, something that unmade the Luminaries not in an instant but across infinite moments, stretched and fractured. Not death, you realize with a kind of horrified clarity, forgetting. A systematic erasure, as if the universe itself decided your people's light was too bright, too strange, too other, and simply chose to unhave them. You reach out, and your hand touches the mirror's surface. The cold of it is shocking, real in a way nothing in the archive is supposed to be. It burns. It burns. And suddenly you're falling through the memory, through the moment, through the last days of the Luminaries as they realized what was happening, as they felt their existence being slowly wound down like a music box running out of song. They left this, left you, scattered through the dimensions, fragmented into a being who reads light and shadow, because that's what you could still do, what they couldn't erase. You were the backup, the failsafe, the last echo. You pull your hand back. Your iridescent skin is smoking. The chamber tilts. The light bends in ways that make your eyes water. Or perhaps that's tears. You're not entirely sure anymore what's you and what's the memory and what's the consequence of knowing. The archive shifts around you, indifferent to your grief, and you realize that it's been waiting. This entire place has been waiting for you to remember. Here's the thing about mysteries, about uncovering truth. You can spin riddles about them. You can chase them through impossible geometries and wrap them in clever words, but once you've seen them, you can't unsee them. The light doesn't go back into the prism. The smoke doesn't return to the cigarette. Your people are gone. We're always going to be gone. The universe made that choice, and you've been living in the margins ever since, a being made of mischief and careful distance, because the alternative was to feel this, the overwhelming weight of what was taken. But here's the other thing, and this is important. You're still here. The Luminaries made sure of it. They poured themselves into the spaces between spaces, left you in the archive like a message in a bottle cast into impossible seas. They didn't want to be forgotten. Not by you. They wanted someone to know, to remember, to feel the weight of it and survive. You're still here. You're still reading the light. You're still unraveling mysteries. You're still alive in a way they couldn't be, and that's not nothing. That's everything. You turn away from the mirror. The chamber resists, tries to hold you in that moment of recognition, but you're good at moving through spaces that don't want to let you go. You've had centuries of practice. Behind you, the mirror reflects one last thing. Yourself. Slightly off. Movements delayed. But moving. Moving forward. The crystalline archive shifts as you leave the chamber, and the invisible doorways whisper closed behind you. This time they'll hide themselves a different way. You won't find this place again. Not today. Maybe not ever. The archive is kind that way. It knows that some truths, once learned, are heavy enough without carrying them constantly. But you'll carry it anyway. You'll carry them. All of them. The Luminaries, their light, their choice to make you the keeper of their memory. You move through the halls of impossible geometry, and your iridescent form shimmers with something new alongside the old mischief, a kind of defiant grace. The grief is there, yes, a cold weight in your chest like wet asphalt, like metal on your tongue. It will always be there. But so is the knowing. So is the light they left behind, fractured and scattered through the dimensions, waiting in the spaces between worlds for anyone brave enough to read it. You slip through the prismatic whispers at the edge of sight. And for the first time in centuries, you're not running. You're searching.
You've spent centuries as a ghost in the machine, a being of mischief and riddles hiding in the spaces between dimensions. But today, the crystalline archive has folded in a way you didn't authorize. There is a chamber that tastes like copper and asphalt, and a mirror that doesn't just reflect your face, it reflects your erasure. Welcome to Fable's Adventures. I'm your host, and today's narrative, The Luminary Failsafe, is an existential journey for our 16-plus audience. It's a story about uncovering a heritage that was systematically unmade by the universe, and the moment you realize that your mischief was actually a shield against a grief too large to carry. If you've ever felt like a backup or a last echo in your own life, this story is for you. Please subscribe to join the archive. The geometry is shifting. Let's step inside.